Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, really and truly, depending on where you are joining us from today. I'm all the way over in Canada and it is morning time, but my guest today is not in Canada. She is very much far away, and it's evening for her there in England. So, really, truly happy that we can have everyone on the line tonight. So, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you'll be blessed by the session that we're about to present. So, before we do anything, as always, we're just going to take a moment and bow our heads in prayer. And then I'll take my opportunity after that to introduce this wonderful young lady that we have joining with us today. And then we'll move on from there to come and to speak to the topic that you're here for today, which is healing from toxic relationships. So even if this is after the fact, take a quick second with us, bow your head, let's pray, and ask God to be a part of this right now. All right? Heavenly Father God, we thank you for your grace and for your mercy. We thank you that you've brought us together for a time like this to talk about a subject as intimate as this. Lord, our mindset, our hearts are open to you, and we ask that you will bless our presenter today. Speak to her heart, speak to our hearts, and we pray that at the end of this session that we can truly say that we've learned something new, that our hearts have been touched, and that our minds are ready to go forward. In Jesus' name. Amen and amen. All right. And so, for many of you who know me, my name is Charlene. I am the founder of Worthinc. We are a supplemental ministry, two ministries across the world. We're definitely here to do presentations and to work with you and to work with different parts of the ministry just to help uplift and to elevate the people of God. And so today, for that specific reason, we wanted to speak to and have someone who is definitely grounded in this with her expertise about healing from toxic relationships. I don't know about you, but there are many persons in our life that we kind of sometimes label as toxic because of what they've done and so forth. But we have a young lady here who is amazing. I'm going to do a little speech on her because it's important that I don't miss anything out. So as you can see on our screen, I'm going to highlight her and let her be there with us. You probably will see her on to the left of my screen, maybe to the right, depending on how this is. But we have with us today, we have Deidre Bennett, and she is a Christian life relationship coach. She's a Christian life coach, but she specializes, okay? Do you hear me? She specializes in relationship counseling, okay, and coaching as well too. She is a graduate of the university, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but I'm going to try my best again. She is the graduate of the University of Hertfordshire, and she majored in psychology. Deidre's interest is in the human experience, which is spanning the entire length of time. So talk about from babies to death. She's interested in this, okay? By day, so we know that she does more than one thing, okay? By day, she is the service manager for two supported living services catering to the learning disability and autism community, and spends her time nurturing her own relationship and coaching individuals and couples with aspects of their relationship. Deidre is married to the love of her life, evangelist Kevin Bennett, and they live together in the north of England. And I love these two young people. I've known them probably about for more than 10 years. They are an amazing couple. They can sing. When I tell you they can sing, their list of things that they can do is so much more than what's happening here. They can sing, and really and truly, they are blessed. And so I'm really truly happy that she can be with us today. If you want to get in contact with her, I know that we will share her social media handles towards the end of our presentation again today. She'll even share them with you. But if you want to jump on over there, even while we're talking, to check her out, you're going to go to Instagram and check out Ask Coach Deidre. And you can also email her at askcoachdeidre@gmail.com. So we'll make sure to put that on our presentation slides before you leave today. But we wanted to make sure we put it out there. She's ready to go, ready to hear you, ready to help you. And it's my pleasure at this time, because we do want to ensure we give her time to do this today, to present Deidre. And Deidre, we thank you so much for being with us here at Worthinc. And take it away, healing us for
Oh,
some
thank
toxic
you so
relationships.
much. Thank you. And hello to everyone that's online. As Robin said before, we've known each other for over 10 years and I've seen all the work that's being done with working, and she's just doing a phenomenal job in the kingdom. as a supplementary ministry, she's honestly, I've seen the things that her husband does, that she does, and it's just, they're a phenomenal team. They're one to be reckoned with. And I'm happy to be with you guys today. So as she said earlier, we'll be dealing with healing from a toxic relationship. And one of the things that you find nowadays is that we have more language for our experiences than even like our parents' generation or even people a few years older than us. We have a lot more language and a lot more defining markers for behaviors or things that we've experienced in our lives. So while I will be giving some language to what a lot of us have gone through in terms of toxic relationships and, dealing with toxic people, I think the first thing just right off the bat is to just say that everyone has toxic traits. So even going through all of this, you might find it like, oh, I do that. Like, it's fine. Everyone has toxic traits. But what makes a person toxic as a part of their identity is that even knowing these traits, they just continue to do the same thing. So I'm going to launch into the presentation. But if you find yourself and, you do a little bit of one-off here or there, then no one's judging you. There's no judgment involved. But yeah, just so that you know. I am going to start sharing my screen now. Great. So when you start talking about healing from a toxic relationship, one of the first things that, you want to know is that what exactly is a toxic relationship? And at its root, a toxic relationship is one that is detrimental to your health. And when we talk about like something being detrimental to your health, a lot of the times people think of only, the physical health aspect of it. So, you've got a broken bone or you've got a headache or you've got a terminal illness or anything like that, something that you can physically see is wrong with you. But a lot of the times, more than the physical health, and what impacts us more than the physical health is the other types of health that we've got. So you've got 5 types of health. You've got physical health, you've got emotional health, you've got social health, spiritual health, and intellectual health. And a toxic relationship is one that can impact any one of these 5 points of your health. So it can become a physically toxic relationship in which, someone's physically abusing you, there's hits, there's like, the list is wide when it comes onto physical abuse. There's emotional abuse where, there are no marks on your body, but your mind, your heart, like your being is hurt by this person. There's social where, your social, how would you describe it now? Like, just you're being sociable with other people, your interaction with other people is severely hampered by your relationship with this individual. There's spiritual health that might be affected in terms of, your relationship with God and how you come into that relationship, how you view God, how you view him as a father, as a friend, like that can be impacted by a toxic relationship. And then you've got your intellectual health as well. Like, the part of you that, goes out to work in the mornings or goes to school or college or high school or things like that, that part of you being affected by a relationship where you're not able to perform optimally as well. So a toxic relationship causes you to feel unsupported, misunderstood, demeaned, or attacked. Now, what relationships can exactly be toxic? A lot of the times we hear about toxic relationships, it's most likely a romantic relationship that people are talking about, but that's not the only relationship that can be toxic. So you've got your family relationship where a parent-child or a sibling to sibling, your aunt, your uncle, your grandparents, like relationships with your family can be toxic. You've got your spouse or your significant other, which is the one that is most talked about in society today when you refer to toxic relationships. You've got friendships and you've got your workplace relationships. So with your colleagues or your boss, those relationships can actually be toxic as well. Now, when we say toxic relationships, some of the signs that we're looking for is that there's no reciprocity. You're constantly pouring and getting nothing or the bare minimum in return in these relationships. Your needs aren't being met despite them being communicated. You feel constantly disrespected by the other party. Your self-esteem takes a nosedive after prolonged toxicity. You feel angry, annoyed, tired, or depressed after contact with the individual. You bring out the worst in each other. You're not your best self when you're around them. You feel anxious or nervous when you know you have to be around them. You spend a lot of time and emotions trying to make them feel better. You're always to blame for everything that goes wrong. And this is one of the major ones. You're being abused, like you're literally being abused, verbally, physically, mentally, financially. There's some abuse taking place. So the crux of the matter today is, after identifying that you've been in a toxic relationship or you've come out of a toxic relationship, how is it that you go about healing from that relationship? Because if you don't heal after you come out of a toxic relationship, it is going to affect every single relationship that comes afterwards. It has a knock-on effect on everything. So you go into your next relationship, if it's a romantic relationship, or you go to your next workplace, if it's a workplace based trauma, and you bring that trauma with you. And because you're bringing that trauma with you, it's impacting and affecting how you deal with the people that are in that place. So if you had a toxic boss before you started a new job, you go to this new job and you're treating your new boss like you would treat your toxic boss. You're nervous, you're afraid, you're anxious when it comes on to time to speak to them. If you're going from a toxic relationship into a new relationship, no matter how healthy this new relationship is, you're going in there and there are some things that you won't, like you'll box shuffle before you do, or box shuffle before you say, because you're like, oh, am I going to make him angry, or am I going to make her angry? It's just going to make them shout. Like, there are things that happen in a toxic relationship where when you leave, if you don't heal properly, you will never ever let go of the trauma or the symptoms. It's almost like post-traumatic stress disorder, where you've left that situation, but your body still holds on to the trauma. Your body still remembers. And even in individuals who may have had post-traumatic stress disorder, what you will find is that even though the mind forgets some of the things that they've been through, their body, when they're in that same situation again, their body automatically reacts. The shoulders get really tight, the jaw clenches, and they're dealing with that thing as if they're back in a war, or they're back in that traumatic situation that they were in before. So it's very important that when you're in a toxic relationship, or you've come out of a toxic relationship, it's very important that you heal, because then now a healthy you can go into this healthy relationship that's being formed afterwards. So there are 5 key things that I've developed a program or a course that I will be launching in the next month and a half. And there are 5 key areas that I look for when I'm coaching people to heal from a toxic relationship. And the first area, and the first thing that I tell them that they have to do, is that they have to forgive themselves. And not that you're forgiving yourself because it was your fault, or you're putting the blame on you. We're not shifting the blame here, because you were a victim of something. Something happened to you, and we're honoring the fact that something happened to you. We're admitting that something happened to you. But there's a part of you that has to accept and acknowledge what happened and the role that you played in it. And most importantly, you have to make a decision to move on. And a lot of the times we can't move on because we're harboring this resentment. We're harboring, and a lot of the times we harbor the resentment against ourselves, because it's almost as if it's not that we don't know better, or there's a part in the back of our heads that I can't believe that I put myself through this, or I can't believe that I let this go on for so long. And you have to forgive yourself for that, or else you just continue in that cycle in your head of bashing yourself, even when no one else is bashing you. So forgiving yourself is the most important part. And it's the first step that I ask any of my clients to take, is that you're going to have to go through the process of forgiving yourself. Now, to forgive yourself, take responsibility. What parts of this do you think were in your control, where you could have stopped it earlier, or you could have shaped the relationship or shaped yourself in a way where it wouldn't have gotten to this state? Take the time to mourn. I mean, people get into relationships, or if it's a family relationship, you've got a relationship with your mom or your dad that's just really, really toxic and you just can't bear it anymore. You've left the situation, you've left the family home, you've moved out, you live somewhere on your own. Take the time to mourn, because everyone goes into relationships having expectations and no one expects to get hurt. So take the time out to mourn the fact that you've put your trust, sometimes even love, into this whole relationship. You've gone into this expecting love, because that's our primary expectation in any relationship, is to expect to be loved. And instead of love, you've had resentment, you've had hurt, you've had pain. Take the time to mourn, right? It's almost as if a part of you has died in this process, in this relationship. So take the time to mourn, or else you won't heal properly. Yeah. Reconcile with yourself. So you have a sit down with yourself. I tell my clients, I said, listen, like, have a notebook, sit in front of the mirror and tell yourself what it is that you need to hear. I don't know what you need to hear to forgive yourself. But if it is that you need to sit there and just talk to yourself, sit there with a notebook, write down everything that you want to say, or write down everything that comes to mind, but have a reckoning with yourself while you're there. Yeah. The fourth thing I say is focus on the future. It's already gone. It happened. We're not discrediting the fact that it happened, but in terms of you being able to heal, focus on the future. Focus on the things that are to come, that won't be as traumatic as this. Yeah, so we're not going to focus or dwell or sit in the past and, sit in the puddle of emotions that was in that area of our life or that time of our life. We're going to focus on the future and the best that is to come. One of my cousins has a brand, and his tagline is "The best is yet to come." Think of that with your life, that the best is literally yet to come. So we're going to focus on that best, which is to come. And the fifth, there's only four. So after forgiving yourself, what I need you to do is find the root. So what is it about this individual or the relationship with them that made you feel as if you had no choice but to accept the behavior that was being given to you? What is it about them, or what is it about the relationship dynamic that you had that made you feel as if I just have to accept this? This is just how it's always going to be, or this is normal. What is it about that? For most toxic family relationships, it's usually the warped view of respect or family duty. Like, I'm your mother, you must do this way, or I'm your father and I lay down the laws, or you're the oldest one, so you need to look after your younger sibling, or you're the youngest sibling, so you need to listen to the older ones. There's a warped view of respect and family duty that comes in those sorts of family relationships that can become toxic. Why? Because it forces you to put everyone else and everyone else's feelings above yours. Your own feelings, your own hopes, your own dreams become invalidated. Why? Because mommy so-and-so said, no, I can't do this. You want to be a dancer, mommy's going to be a doctor. Like, it's that battle between, family duty of I must honor my mother and my father, and, this dying of self that is happening. So respect sometimes means that you have to tolerate or you have to accept a lot of things with no regard to your own emotional well-being. Family, yeah, I've gone through that already. In an office environment, it could be that you come in and a lot of the people around you, your boss is shouting at everyone, and this almost seems normal to everyone else because that's how he is or that's how she is, when no, that's toxic, that's abusive. Like, I shouldn't be coming to the workplace and cowering in my car, or I shouldn't be crying on my way to work or on my way from work. That's not an environment that forces you or encourages you to thrive or to do your best work. If you're coming in and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, what's going to happen today? Or, oh my gosh, I hope she doesn't call on me. Oh my gosh, I haven't finished that report. Like, you shouldn't be feeling that like that when you're going to work. um, and it could just be you've got a toxic colleague at work who's just like 24/7 moaning. I mean, we all come in contact with people like that who are just, they drain the life out of you. There's never anything life-giving from an interaction with them. It's literally just a drain. They come to talk to you for 5 minutes and you feel like you've been there for 5 hours. Like, there are people that are just toxic in that regard, where they drain you emotionally. And for some romantic relations, they're anything but romantic. You've got a spouse who, is constantly talking down to you, making you feel as if you're an idiot. You've got a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and, instead of you thinking to yourself, yeah, this is a person that I want to marry, you're just like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to like be with you for the rest of my life? Like, you get those relationships that are really toxic to you as an individual because there's no empowerment in those relationships. Someone's talking down to you, everything is your fault. You bring a genuine concern to them and somehow they find a way to twist it around to make you the person that's the problem. This questioning of your own sanity, like, am I crazy because I'm the only person that can see that 1 + 1 in this situation equals 2, but I'm being made to feel as if 1 + 1 is like 110. Like, there are people that make you question these things and question how you're responding, and if your response, was I over exaggerating just now when he kissed another woman on the lips? Or like, am I over exaggerating? Is this not a serious thing? It's a very serious thing for me because my husband did that. But things like that make you think and make you see that the relationship is not what it should be. There's no health in this relationship because it's stressing you out. It's causing mental strain and mental drain on you. So what is it? What is causing you to tolerate this? Because there's always something for everyone. There's this one thing that's causing you to tolerate toxic behavior. Is it that you don't think you can get another job in your field? Is it that you don't think that anyone else will want to be with you? Is it that you think that, oh, I have a duty to continue this relationship, or I have a duty to my family to make sure that the field that I go in is the one that mommy wants me to go in because it's safe? Sometimes mommy is scared. Sometimes mommy doesn't know how a dancer is going to make money in 2021 because dancers didn't make money in 1964. But that's mommy's fear, not yours. So a lot of times family members do toxic things, and I'm not calling all family members toxic. I'm saying they do toxic things out of fear because they don't know how it would work, and they're worried and they're stressed because they don't know how it will work. So what is causing you to tolerate this toxic behavior? Now, the roots of a behavior are things that make us susceptible to these behaviors. So it may be a fear of rejection, it may be your own insecurities, low self-worth, like a wrong concept of what the particular relationship should look like. A lot of us come from relationships or families where we've seen mom and dad just always bickering at each other. So we think that bickering in a relationship is normal. Some people come from relationships where they see physical abuse in that relationship and they're like, oh, if he doesn't beat me, he doesn't love me. So they're expecting to be beat in this relationship. You hear people talking about relationships with their colleagues at work or with their boss. And, because you hear so many people have these bosses that are just nightmares, like devils wear Prada level of nightmares. Like, you think to yourself that, oh, every boss should be like that. It's not like that, but that sort of thing, it makes us susceptible to that behavior because we don't have any sort of language or a good representation of what a healthy relationship in that sphere looks like. So once we know the root of the behavior or why we are, susceptible to the behavior, then we're able to then take the next step, which is to fortify ourselves. Now, if we look at it historically, whenever we've heard the word fortify, we immediately think of this castle or this, this city in biblical days. The Jericho, the city of Jericho had a wall around it. You think of a huge wall that is barricading something and keeping something in. And a lot of the times that's what we have to do with ourselves. The Bible says that you should guard your heart above all things because out of it flows the issues of life. Now, when we say guard your heart or fortify yourself, what we're talking about is you're building a wall around your heart, but it's not a wall where no one can get in, nothing can get out, nothing can get in. It's not one of those impermeable membranes that you learn about in biology. But if you think about a castle or a fortified city, there's a gate, right? There's a gate where you've got soldiers that are standing on either side, and the soldiers come, you walk up to the gate, the soldiers say, "What is your business?" And you say, "Okay, I'm gonna go sell in the market today." They check your van to make sure that you've got stuff that are gonna be sold at the market, and then they let you through because you've come with a valid and a proven, reason to be there. When I say fortify yourself, what I'm saying is that you need to create boundaries. Every single relationship, every healthy relationship has boundaries, right? Now, we have to create, especially coming out of a toxic relationship, once you find out the root or the cause of why you stayed in that toxic relationship, a part of you healing is now fortifying yourself in that area. So if you were in that toxic relationship because you suffered from self-doubt or you were insecure about whether or not anyone would love you or things like that, then a part of your fortification for your own self and a part of the boundaries that you're setting is that you need to build your self-esteem. You need to go back to what God says that I am. Who am I? I am the beloved of God. I am fearfully and I'm wonderfully made. Like, I am a catch, okay? Any man, any woman that gets the honor of being my partner or my spouse, I'm a catch. They're lucky to have me. Like, you have to build your self-esteem up in that area so that the first person that comes, "Hey, sweet lady," or "Hey, fine guy," doesn't just get in because they can talk sweet, but you are able to assess whether or not they actually value you. And at the first sign that they're not taking you seriously, at the first sign that, they're not valuing or they're not putting some respect on your name, then you can actually say, "Hold up, no, I've got a boundary in place here." And that boundary says, "Hello, no, you need to either apologize and fix up, or I'm going to put you where you need to go, which is the back of the line." Yeah. So when I say fortify yourself, we need to create boundaries. And these boundaries help us to protect ourselves because they provide checkpoints, all right? Everyone on the first day that you meet them is going to be nice. As you go on in that, that talking stage, or you go on in that work relationship, you've been there 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4, you go on, you learn more about these persons because as time goes by, people naturally, they let go of the facade. No one can keep a facade up for a long time. At some point, they're gonna drop it. And it won't be because they're tired. It's just there's gonna be some leak of that true nature while they're going through. So your boundaries help to protect you because you have little checkpoints along the way of a relationship with someone, like little red flags pop up. Like what I go into more depth about in the course is like honoring your body, honoring your responses, honoring your mind, because there's sometimes you're in a conversation with someone and your body tenses at something that they say, like recognize it and honor it when those things happen, because your gut instincts are going to serve you so much more once you've come out of a toxic relationship, because now you're going to be empowered to actually pay them some attention. You're going to be empowered to act on them. So don't just think, oh, I'm over exaggerating or I'm overthinking it. If your gut is telling you that something is wrong in this situation, something may be wrong in that situation. So honor that feeling that you're feeling and ensure that you're not just pushing it to the back burner. Now it's a warning signal, right? So they warn us about individuals who may not have the best intentions towards us, and they help us appropriately decide if we let this person in or if we keep them at a distance, right? So if someone is continually, I've got a post up on Instagram about this, but if you set a boundary and someone is continually breaching that boundary, that lets you know that this person has no regard for your feelings. They have no regard for the things that you stand for. And if someone has no regard for you as a person, for your feelings, for your values, then that's not someone that you want to have a long relationship or a meaningful relationship with, because they're telling you now how they're going to be treating you later. Yeah. So there are 5 steps that I worked out to create a healthy boundary. And the first one is to know your core values. If you don't know the things that you stand for, you're going to fall for anything. So you need to know your core values. What are the things that are of importance to you? What are the things that are important to you when looking for a spouse? What are the things that are important to you when looking for, a healthy work relationship or a healthy workplace? What are the things that are important to you when you think about how you're supposed to interact with your mom or interact with your dad or your siblings, your aunties, your uncles? What are the things that are important to you when you're thinking about all these things? Now, once you know your core values, you can then say, okay, these are my basic expectations, is that my values are being fed or met. The second thing is to assess how other people's behavior towards you makes you feel. It goes back again to that gut instinct that I was talking about earlier. You want to make sure that the people that you have around you, how do you feel when you hear that this person's coming to the barbecue or that person's going to be at your mom's house when you go there? How do you feel about that? That lets you know where, if a boundary needs to be in place there. Because if someone's going to be a drain on your emotional health, a drain on your spiritual health or your social health, then it makes you want to protect yourself in that way, right? Boundaries are a person's antibiotics. You need to be confident in your decisions. So you've decided that this is a boundary that you're going to set, right? This person is not allowed to call me outside of my name. No one's allowed to call you outside of your name. But that's a boundary that you set, that you know what, I'm not going to accept anyone calling me outside of my name. Be confident in that decision. Someone calls you outside of your name, you say to them, listen, I don't appreciate being called outside of my name. I have warned you. I have told you my expectation. I've set my expectation. Be confident in that expectation. So you're not going to tolerate if this person comes again and calls you outside of your name. That's telling you exactly where that person needs to be. All right? Stand your ground. It's important that when we set boundaries, we stand our ground, because if you don't stand your ground, then people are just going to be like, oh yeah, she set that boundary, but she doesn't actually mean it. Because she said it today, and then no, she said it yesterday, and then today I did the same thing and she let it slip. Like she didn't set the boundary again, she didn't remind me of the boundary. No, stand your ground. And if someone's continually trying to pass that boundary and continuing that, showing no regard for the fact that you've actually set a boundary in place, that's a warning sign for you, right? And let go of the guilt. A lot of the times when we're putting boundaries in place with relationships that previously had no boundaries, such as, a parent-child relationship or a relationship with your sibling or your auntie, uncles, grandparents, whoever it is, great-grand auntie Nikki down the line. Like, a lot of the times when we're setting boundaries in those relationships, it feels awkward and we feel guilty because we're like, oh, it's my family, like I shouldn't, I they're allowed to do this, but no, it's not. It's not allowed. And if something is hurting you, if something is taking a stab at your emotional health, then it's not allowed. So it's not allowed for Great Aunt Nikki to tap you on the bum if you don't like being tapped on the bum, and you put that notice in, that boundary in place. It's not all right for, your auntie to be talking about your marriage behind your spouse's back. Like, it's not. And once you have made that boundary and set that boundary in place, it's important that you don't feel guilty for having to enforce that boundary. They need to feel guilty for breaking it or for breaching it. Yeah. So make sure that you're letting go of any of the guilt that is surrounding a boundary that has to be made. Now, the fourth thing that I go through in the course with my clients is to rediscover yourself. A lot of the time, toxic relationships, you shrink into this version of yourself. It's almost like if you watch the SpongeBob cartoons, it's like a dehydrated SpongeBob where you're half the person that you used to be before this relationship. You're not as bubbly anymore. You don't have the same interests anymore. You're afraid to try new things. Like what you are now after enduring 2 years of a toxic relationship is 10% of who you were before you even started that relationship. So a part of what you have to do when you're healing is to actually go on the journey of rediscovery, to find out, who am I outside of this relationship, outside of this toxic bubble? Who am I? What am I interested in? What are the things that I like to do? What are the things that I don't like to do? What have I been doing out of duty that I actually hate? So you've been eating chocolate cake for 4 years in this relationship, and you actually don't like chocolate at all. Like, what are the things that you've been doing out of duty and just out of rote repetition for all these years, or the entire time that you've been in this relationship, that had nothing to do with you or your likes or interests as a person? What part of you did you give up to make that other person happy? Yeah. Now, toxic relationships, they cause you to shrink using comparison. You're not doing like so-and-so's wife is like this, and so-and-so's husband cleans the yard, and he's a man's man. And, you're afraid. It causes you to shrink using fear. Like, oh, I don't want him to argue, so I'm not even going to bring up that I like going to theme parks, because he's going to argue with the cost of going to a theme park, or he's going to argue because he doesn't like heights. It causes you to it causes you to shrink using self-doubt and self-sabotage. So you do things that are so against you, what you stand for, what you believe in, and you sabotage your own growth in some areas. There's some times and some things that you'd want to go for this promotion that's at work, but you've got a boss that's telling you that you're not worth it, or you're not working at the standard that this promotion requires. You've got a spouse at home telling you, like, no, I don't want you to work outside the house because you're only good at washing plate and cooking my meals. Like, these things, they cause you to then self-sabotage because of the voices that are going round and round in your head of these toxic individuals are telling you, you're not worth it, you can't do this, you'll never be good enough for this. So it causes you to then go on this self-sabotage train where nothing that you qualify for, you think you actually qualify for, you actually do things to disqualify yourself from them, because you need to stay in the same position, that the same box that this person has put you in. And through rediscovery, you learn empathy. You learn to empathize not only with yourself for what you've undertaken, for what you've experienced, but also empathy for others. You learn self-awareness. You become a lot more aware of yourself, and a lot more aware. I spoke earlier about those gut feelings. You're paying a lot more attention now to the way that things, environments, and people is making you feel. You learn intentionality. So you're not doing things now because you're required to do them. There's an intention behind everything that you do. And through rediscovery, like you're able to now make the intent. You're able to decide the intent behind everything that you're doing. So if you're gonna move your bottle of water from the left to the right, it is completely within your autonomy and your control of this is the reason why I'm moving it, because the light hits it too much when it's to the left and I need it a little bit more to the right. Like you're able to form and to create the intention behind everything that you do, not just being a soldier moving just because your major has told you that you have to move, or left foot here, right foot here, but you're setting the intentionality for the things that you as a person are doing. And self-discovery, you learn new things about yourself. You learn that actually I can dance, or actually I can paint really well, or I can speak to large groups of people really well, or you learn things about yourself that you didn't know before because you've been exploring. You're discovering new things, you're trying new things, like, oh, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try skydiving. Never know if I'm gonna like it or not, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try painting. I'm gonna go to a sip and paint class. That you open yourself up to so many more things, because now you're like, I want to know what I like. I want to know what I'm good at. Not what someone's told me that I'm good at, but what I actually know that I'm good at. Now, as you're healing, you're going to find that you become more aware of yourself and of the things that bring you joy. You're going to realize that your palette has changed and that all the opinions that you've been starved of oppressing will suddenly take the limelight. You'll suddenly be able to actually voice those opinions now. You're going to question all the ways that you've been operating and discerning what resonates with you as an individual. They're going to be people that you had previously lost contact with because of this toxic relationship. You're like, don't talk to so-and-so, don't talk to this person, don't talk to your mom, don't talk to your Uncle Louis because XYZ said whatever about Uncle Louis, or Uncle Louis looked at your partner wrong one day. A lot of the times you do, and this goes back to your social health. Toxic relationships, they aim to cut you off from the people around you, because if you, especially the people around you who hold you in high regard, because those are the people that will come for them. Those are the people that will step on necks. And if you cut off those people, you're not hearing these alternate voices saying to you, Dee, you know what, that's foolishness. Or saying to you, Charlene, no, like that's not normal. Is your brain working today? Like the people that will check you are the people that will most likely they'll cut you off from, because they don't want you having a source of power outside of them. All right. And there are going to be some activities that you used to enjoy that you want to get into again. You used to enjoy walking in the park or going for a swim, and in this toxic relationship that you've not been allowed to. You used to enjoy dancing, and because mom sees no future in dancing, you used to quit dance classes. You're not taking dance as an extra module at university anymore. Like you don't want to go to the performing arts school anymore. Like you've cut yourself off from these things because of the toxicity that you've experienced. And you're gonna find that those things that you used to enjoy, you're gonna want to do them again. Now, what I always tell people is that don't shy away from the process. There's still gonna be a part of you that will almost like try to hold you back or restrict you from doing these things. Like just the thought of it, be like, oh, I can't do that, but push past it, right? Push past that voice, push past that. Remember, you've been in this situation for however many years or months that you've been in. You've learned how to, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome, where you've come out of that situation, but you're still feeling some sort of regard for the person that was holding you in that situation. You're feeling some sort of value for their input in your lives and things that they've said to you that don't do this or you can't do that. But you're going to have to push past that. You're going to have to push past it, because the person that you used to be won't ever be sure of the person that you're becoming. They won't ever be sure that that person will be accepted. But you have to push through and try it anyways. You have to embrace the process. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will this new version of yourself. You are literally coming out of this. And I don't know if there are any Agents of Shield fans, but there was a time when, you know, the where there was an episode where these people were being transformed into superheroes, and they became a cement block of themselves. But in that cement block, the superhero version of themselves had to literally break free out of that. And so if you imagine someone being encased in cement and forcing through that cement to break out, then you realize that, you know, a new version of yourself doesn't just come by like, you know, happenstance or, you know, at the snap of a finger. It's daily progress. It's daily changes that are being made, daily steps that are being taken. And you're undertaking such a beautiful metamorphosis. Think of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Like, you don't see it happen all in one day, but over time, gradually, those wings are growing, those antennas are growing, that color on the wings is coming through. You have to give yourself time, and don't fight the change that has to happen. Yeah. And we're coming to the end now. Some of you might be saying hallelujah. But an integral part of healing, after you've done all the foundation work in the first 5 steps that were there, is preparation. You need to prepare for the future. And you might be asking yourself, like, prepare for what? What is there to prepare for after all of this? But you have to prepare for the time coming where you may encounter any sort of toxicity again. You have to prepare for that future where you're going into an unknown situation, you're going into a similar situation. How are you going to respond? How is this time going to be different? How is it that someone coming up to you and is displaying a whole lot of toxicity right off the bat? How is your demeanor when you're being in them and being in that circle? How will you act? Are you going to enforce these boundaries that you create, or are you going to shy back into the person that you were before you've healed? Are you going to go back and shrink into this small version of yourself that you were before? Or are you going to actually stand now in the changes that you've made and actually be the bold person that you've done all of this work to be? The time ahead will be a time that you haven't experienced before. And the version of you that's experiencing it will have never had to respond to those situations before. The you that you were yesterday has never had to respond to the things that you have to respond to today. It's a completely new situation. How are you going to be in that? So you have to prepare. You have to do something out of the norm to ensure that when you get into this situation, this new situation, you can do it from a place of confidence, from a place of awareness, from a place of intentionality, where you know who you are, you know what you stand for, what you don't stand for, you know the boundaries that you've put in place, you know what you're expecting and what you want. The final step in healing is being prepared for the future. You're at a place now where you're not hurt by what happened before. The scars have healed. You look at the scar and you remember that you got that scar in that toxic relationship, but it doesn't hurt you when you rub your hand over it. It doesn't hurt you when you think about the relationship anymore. You're actually happy that you're out of it. You're like, oh my gosh, like I really that was me. Like, I'm happy now. When you think back to that version of yourself that you were before in that toxic relationship and the version of yourself that you are now, You're happy to be the person you are now. So we have to take some time to prepare for the future. How do you prepare? You practice positive self-talk. When you hear those voices in your head telling you that you can't do it, or you're ugly, or you're never gonna find anyone besides me, or no one's gonna treat you right because you don't treat this family right. No, you practice positive self-talk. I am brave. I am gorgeous. I am strong. I am good at my job. I excel at the things that I put my mind to. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm the beloved of God. I have been called to this workplace for this time and this season. Like, you talk to yourself positively, right? You maintain your boundaries. You set them, you've had practice with enforcing them, maintain them. And you practice self-awareness and honor your emotions and your instincts. You embrace curiosity. A lot of the times, how you react or respond as this new individual, you have to embrace curiosity. Oh, I've never tried that before. I've never tried Thai food. I'm gonna try Thai food, see if I like Thai food. I'm gonna try Indonesian food. Like, you open yourself up to new experiences. You embrace that curiosity that comes with, building a new you. And you focus. You don't focus on the things that you had to leave, like pressing on towards the future. Said not focusing on what was behind you, but you press forward towards the mark of the higher calling. Like, you literally have to focus on what is in front of you. You almost have to get this tunnel vision of, no, this is my aim. This is my determination. I can't look to the right or to the left. I can't see anything. I have to keep going forward. You have to focus. And we're done. We're done. This is how you heal from a toxic relationship. And it's not a one-day job. I encourage people who are taking my course to honestly walk through it and work through it at the pace that's comfortable for you. Because I can't dictate to you that, oh, you can heal in 2 weeks. No, I can't say that. Right? The ball is really in your court when it comes onto your healing. It happens as fast as it needs to happen. And for it to be a lasting change, you have to walk through these steps slowly and not just skip to this one because, I've been stuck on step 2 for 4 weeks. I'm just going to go to step 4 now. No, give yourself the time to go through all of these steps. Even forgiving yourself alone, that takes time. So honor the process that you have to go through. And I mean, we're opening up for questions now anyways, but I just want to say thank you before that for listening to me for so long. And I'm going to hand over to Charlene.
Thank you so much, Deidre. That was a pleasure to listen to you. It was. You've got a very calming voice, so it was just nice to take it in and to listen and to hear someone just express from a professional point of view, just kind of where we are as people, and whether it's in church, out of church, relationships, you hit family, you hit the workplace as well too. And we do have so many people that we put in quotation marks as toxic in our life, but I think the social media world has just said block them. And so because that's the answer, to just to block them, we have so many persons who are actually not going through the process of healing from the toxic relationship. And
Yeah.
I love what you said earlier about just being intentional in what you do and setting those boundaries. I made a note of fortify yourself. I'm telling you, you're preaching to me in a nice calm tone. And I say that because you know what, there are many times we forget that there's a gate. We
Yeah.
forget that there's a gate to us.
Mhm.
Not everyone has access to you. Not
And not
everyone
everyone should.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it comes to the idea. I love the example you said. Fortify yourself. Have your gate up. Don't let everyone in. And we need to ensure that we create those boundaries and to honor the gut feeling. So I really want to thank you for just re-emphasizing the need for us to think about those things in our lives, because sometimes we just accept what's being poured at us,
Yeah.
and we have all authority and all ability to really truly, stop the moment and move on. So I love that. Anyhow, I'm not gonna go through my all my summary on all my notes, because I was enjoying it as we go along. We did have some questions come through. So we want to give a few minutes towards our question, because we are rounding down at the top of the hour. And so one of the questions that came through for you was, how do we successfully set a boundary? So you mentioned we've got to settle, but can you just elaborate a bit more on how do we successfully set a boundary?
Well, for a lot of people, it's looking at what am I offended about this situation? Like you've said to me, oh, I don't like the fact that you're wearing red. Okay, that's nice. Thank you very much. But how to set a successful boundary is to actually think about, okay, what about this confession that you don't like me wearing red? What does it make me feel? What is the feeling that I'm trying to not feel in this situation again? So if you've made me feel insecure, or you've made me, I'm gonna try to use something a bit more practical. That was a bit basic. Um, someone's continuing. Let's go back to someone calling you outside of your name. Someone's continually calling you outside of your name, right? Now you've expressed to this person to set a boundary. It's a simple thing as saying, um, I don't like being called outside of my name. It makes me feel X, right? Now you set a boundary just by saying that. Please don't call me outside of my name. It makes me feel, and I don't like to feel that way. That is a boundary that you've set. A lot of the time we think about boundaries as these grand things or these grand gestures. No, it's just stating that you don't like something that was done, and this is how it's made you feel, and you don't want to feel that way. Now, if someone's continually going on and on and on and, continually pressing past that and pushing, like, oh, I'm only joking. It's not funny. Yeah. And a lot of the times when people call you outside of your name or do things like that, they'll come and be like, oh, I don't mean it like that. Like, no, I don't. And my feelings don't know that you don't mean it like that. That's why I'm setting this boundary so that you don't do it again. Yeah. So that's how I go about setting boundaries. Just making it plain. Like, I don't like the way that you've made me feel when you said that.
I really enjoy that answer, because I think it's important for us to speak to our I statements, the feelings. Many
Yeah.
times when someone is they're speaking negatively towards us, whatever that situation may be, we talk about how the person made you feel, but we don't tell the person. So we're
Yeah.
angry at the action, but we don't talk about how it made us feel.
Yeah.
And so I think those I statements are extremely important. Awesome. We got a couple more questions here for you. The next question was, how do you heal from heartbreak in church? Now, the person said not church hurt, okay, while still maintaining fellowship. Is there any guidance you can give on that? How do you heal from heartbreak in church? Once again, not church hurt, while still maintaining fellowship.
I'd like a little bit more context towards that. If the person's able to reach out to me on Instagram, but if I am thinking about it in the right way, I'm gonna assume that a relationship with someone in the same church as you has ended, um, resulting in some heartbreak. That's how I interpreted it. But I think it's important that if you're gonna be healing from any sort of heartbreak, that you take the time out that you need. And it may just be a discussion with your pastor to say, um, XYZ has happened. I'm not distancing myself from fellowship per se, but I cannot be in the same space as this person right now. So I will come to evening service if they're coming to morning service, or you know, we're in 2021 where we've had a nightmare of 2020. So I'll do the Zoom service and they can do the physical service. But you have to take the time out to heal. And healing, a lot of the times, I've said it to people in the past that you can't heal in an area that has hurt you. or you can't heal in the environment that you got hurt. So if it is that this individual is causing you pain every time you see them or every time you're around them, you have to interact with them because you know brotherly love must abide. Um, take yourself out of the situation for a while until you not necessarily completely healed, but you come to an area in your healing where you can actually tolerate being around that person and not be reminded um, of the hurt that's been caused.
And so the
I
person.
hope that's the context that you asked the question in.
That's
If
correct.
not, just message me.
That is correct. So they did reach out and clarify that that is exactly the context in which they were speaking to courting or having a relationship with someone, and then it falls out, and then you have to fellowship with that person.
That can be awkward. Like sometimes you need to take a break.
I think it's important that we speak to those pieces, and you made a very good point about not staying or not trying to heal in a place where you were hurt. And so many times, we may see persons from a church perspective not come back to church for a certain period of time. You're wondering what's going on with them. They could truly just be in a process of healing, and that's truly
Yeah.
where our non-judgmental behavior truly has to be at the forefront of in our mindset as children of God, that you don't know what someone is truly going through, and
Yeah.
having to fellowship with someone who you were probably courting, probably even engaged to,
Yeah.
and it's been
It can
called
be
off.
awkward.
It's difficult. Awkward are just
Yeah.
probably the kind words that we can use right now. So we have to remember that everyone needs a space to heal. And one thing that I would add on that, from the ministry point of view, that persons may come to the altar and pray for that healing, pray for that restoration. And yes, God can do all things, and God can instantaneously do anything, but that person still needs to take time. That
Yeah.
person still needs time, and we have to remember that when someone's going through and has been through, right, toxic
And if you need
relationships.
therapy, go get it.
Amen.
Like there is such a stigma in the church world and the even I dare I say the black or the Caribbean church world that we don't do therapy, we don't do counseling, Jesus alone is fine. But if you need therapy, then go get therapy. If you need to talk to someone outside of the situation who's objective, who will have your best interest at heart, go speak to your therapist.
I'm glad that you bring that up, and I've seen a rise in Christian therapy, and I mean, even yourself as a certified Christian relationship counselor and coach, it's happening a lot more within the communities that are of minority and so forth, and as what we would call minorities, I should say, probably. It's happening more and more, and so there is support that is there, and that we should also encourage. And I always speak to the fact that our ministers need counseling courses, because we do have these exact same circumstances where yes, the prayer is needed and the spiritual guidance is there, but how does that person then take the physical steps in their life to move from a place of hurt to a place of being healed?
Yes.
So that's honestly, I love it. I'm glad that you're here as someone that we can reach out to. We actually had some other counselors on the line today, and so once again, we've it's coming up more and more,
Yeah.
and we've got a reason to be thankful for that. All right.
And it should. I mean, I had a lot of people when I announced that I had been certified. A lot of people are like, "Oh, we need this. Like, we definitely need more of this." Like, there is a dry spot where a well is definitely needs to be dug. So, I'm glad that there are a lot of Christian counselors now. That there are a lot more Christian counselors, Christian therapists, coaches. They're needed in the body.
And I'll say amen to that. And these are the reasons why, for example, what we're doing today is important. Where no, we haven't shared a Bible scripture on the screen, but it's not about the biblical piece. It's about the coping mechanisms, about being able to live within the world as children of God with skill sets that helps us get through certain circumstances, especially in relationships. All right, I'm going to give you a question. It's a long one. I'm going to read it. So just take your time and listen in on it. Okay. Good question though. It says this: once leaving a toxic relationship, we find ourselves, we grow out of it, and a child or children are involved. How do we equip ourselves, even our children or our child, to co-parent, but toxic behavior towards the other parent, perhaps revenge or attitude is there, and reflecting towards the children? also, and don't want the children to go through a toxic mentality as they grow. So quite a bit of a mouthful, but how do parents, who were once in a relationship, co-parent when there is a toxic vibe without passing it on to their children? What are some guiding, pointers that you can give that person?
You can only control you. And if someone is continually choosing to be toxic, you can't necessarily control them, but you can control you and you can control your responses to it. So that's where a lot of the fortification comes in. That's where a lot of the boundaries need to be set and boundaries need to be reinforced. And, even for the children, I think for the children and the spouse that's trying to heal, you guys all need to be booked into therapy. Like, I'm not going to be one of those coaches that's like, yeah, just come to me for coaching and you'll be fine. Like, if you need therapy, you need therapy. And there are things that a therapist will suggest to you to do, some mechanisms that need to be put in place. It may just be that, visits with that person needs to be scheduled for a time with a social worker or with someone else who is unbiased present, just because hurt people. And if that person is still hurting, they're going to continue to pick at you and continue to hurt you because they're hurting. So what, you're only in charge of your healing, your children's healing, you support them with that. But once all three of you, or I say three because I'm thinking of just a general nuclear family with 2.5 kids. But if you and your children are healed, then you're able to then not, with the boundaries in place, not let this individual affect you, because again, you're guarding your heart. You're not letting the offense that they're trying to spew at you take root. And it's even with the children, it's about you and what you do in your home to fortify them, to defend them. So you're speaking life into your children. You're letting them know who they are as children of God. You're letting them know that you love them. You're showing them all the positive relationship markers that they need to have. It becomes clear to children, and I think you'll even see a difference in the children. It's like, oh, I don't want to go to daddy today. I don't want to go to mommy today because that's a lot toxic. Like, kids pick up on these buzzwords and they're like, nah, mommy's very toxic. I don't want to go to mommy today. And they're able to vocalize that. But for me, I'd say go to therapy, get some reinforcement, have your visitations or things like that supervised by someone who's outside of the process, if you're able to. But I'd say just really, really take that fortification seriously.
Those are very good, good reminders, and I like what you say. Take the fortification seriously. If you recognize that the toxicity is coming into the children, the same way that we're speaking about building your own skill set, you need
Yeah,
to build the
build
children's
there.
skill
Yeah,
set as well too, so they know how to deal with persons who are negative and persons who are bullies, and whether it's a parent or not. You build that life skill into your children's lives, and you protect them, guard them the same way
children
you're
come
guarding
with an
yourself.
empty toolkit. So it's us that literally have to build them and to teach them and to give them these tools to, to fortify their own minds and to defend their own selves. Because they'll come with a toolkit and there's nothing in there. It's up to the parent to actually just equip them with the things that they need to go through those relationships,
I
especially if it's going to be a toxic one.
I think that many times we believe with relationships, I think people believe that we should learn by osmosis. We see it happen somewhere else, we draw it into our system and apply. And
Yeah.
not everyone learns that way, right? And so, once again, things like this is what we need, just to open discussion, just to say, listen, not we need to write it down. Some people need to write it down. Some people need to actually go through the process with somebody one on one. Some persons may read a book and they're good to go. But we need to be open about the whole idea that not everyone's going to learn the same way. And if I see your relationship going well, I can't assume what makes that relationship work well. And I think one of the things we sometimes forget is that people love to on the outside look okay, but the toxicity is on the inside of their
Yeah.
homes. And so you made a good example earlier about, that cemented superhero. You have to break through it. It is truly an individual process to break through. But if you have children, pull them along with you. Let them learn the life skill set, because trust me, they're gonna buck up, as we would say, or meet up with persons in their life that's toxic, and they're gonna need the skill set to go forward as well.
Definitely.
All right. I'm just checking our chat. If you have a question, we have a few more minutes before we close off our session for today, and I'll just give everyone that opportunity as I kind of round off here. So, one of the things that I heard you mention was the the comparison part and the self sabotage. And I just wanted to take a quick note there before we, once again, waiting for any more questions. Self sabotage, the voices of others will begin to define you, that you keep hearing other person's voices in your head. How do you get these voices out of your head? What would be your one tip that you would say? I want to get rid of this negativity out of my head. It's been planted for so long. How do I get it out of my head?
Don't just let it continue to roll. I think as soon as a negative thought comes into your head, you need to challenge it right then and there. Be like, actually, no, I'm not ugly. Or no, I am gonna find a good man. Like you need to challenge it right then and there. Not just allow it to, I don't know if it's for everyone, but for me, when my mind like latches onto something, it's almost like a spider diagram of just continuing to build and build and build off this one main thing. And it's important that once you have that thought, that negative thought about yourself, and that toxic thought about yourself, something that someone said about you like 10 years ago that it still impacts you today. Every time that thought comes in, you need to challenge it. You need to put that thought under subjection, right? And then once you have challenged it, what you actually do is to actually replace it. So you don't just say, oh no, I'm not going to think about that now. And you just like shake it out of your head and be like, oh, the dots. Let me think about the dots.
Replace the thoughts.
No, you need to replace these thoughts. And you find that the more time you spend replacing them, the quicker you can challenge and replace, the quicker you can swap, the quicker that thought no longer comes back into your mind anymore.
All right, we had a question come in as well. How would you advise parents who have toxic family members to encourage attending family gatherings without getting too involved with toxicity?
So let me take my course. um, it goes back to what I said before that you can't control what others outside of you. So if your parents are choosing to go and get involved in these things, with you having already, I know that there's sometimes I talk to my mom about something, and she'll go back and she might be in a situation and she'll want to answer, but she'll just say, "Oh, I remember Deidre said." She'll call me and she'll be like, "I didn't do what I wanted to do because I heard your voice in my head." But a lot of the time, it takes reinforcing things, reinforcing ideas. You need to understand a lot of parents don't know how to identify or deal with toxic traits as we do. I said it earlier on in the webinar that we have a lot more language now for things than our parents did. So it's important for us. They probably see you saying, "Oh, that's really toxic," and they're just like, "Oh, it's a buzzword. It's a kids thing these days." But no, it's language that's being given to experiences that they've probably experienced throughout their lives as well. And for them to actually understand that, no, I'm just giving you language for something that you're experiencing, it goes a long way to then help them to reframe their own thoughts and their own actions surrounding toxic things. Sometimes it went back to what I was saying when I was talking about, toxicity in family relationships, that out of a sense of family duty, a lot of people do things. They're like, oh, if I don't go to this family function, then it's going to look bad. And it's going to look as if this side of the family isn't supporting that side of the family, or, things like that. But it's important that they feel empowered to set boundaries that, okay, yes, you're going to represent this person here, but you can actually set a boundary. Sometimes boundaries is just like, I'm not going to get involved. That's a boundary. A boundary like seeing the drama happening over there and choosing not to get involved. And a lot of the times people don't feel empowered to make that choice. They feel as if, oh, I have to get involved because, they're calling dramas and my drama is not here to defend yourself, so I must get involved. You don't have to get involved. So it's empowering them to know that even getting involved in the drama is a choice.
I think that's very wise words, because I think, like you said, persons may feel obligated to, and there are some fights that aren't our fight, that we should truly protect ourselves from. And when we speak about family relations, you mentioned the word in your presentation earlier about the warped view in the family relationship, where respect sometimes has you in a position where you take the back seat to others. And we need to be able to realize that, you know what, even in a respectful environment, you matter. It's important to know that you matter, and how to respectfully express yourself. And you're very right that, parents, our parents and the generations before may not have had the language to express themselves, and we're coming in now with this language, and unfortunately it can even seem disrespectful because we're bringing that language forward. But once again, we have to normalize the fact that this generation is very expressive, hence social media, Facebook, YouTube, everything, all the emotions out there and online, because they're expressing it. And so there has to be an understanding and a gap being bridged to teach the older generation that it's not disrespectful when done in a respectful way, of course, about the younger generation expressing themselves, because they need that outlet in order for them to kind of get through the process of healing and so forth. Awesome. All right, we are rounding down. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I just wanted to let everybody know that the beautiful young lady that you see on your screen, her name is Deidre Bennett, and she is hailing out of North England with us today. So it is actually nighttime or close to nighttime there, and she's taken the time out to spend some time with us. And we really truly do appreciate her just speaking to us about how to heal from a toxic relationships. And so we definitely want to thank you for joining us, each and every single one of you. And if you don't know, she is on social media. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. I'm just going to bring up her social media handles here for anyone who is joining us, so that you know how to get in contact with her. In fact, Deidre, why don't you go ahead and actually speak to how we can get in contact with you?
Sure, no problem. So I am on Instagram at Ask Coach Deidre. That's AskAskCoachDeidre. The only part in shuffle was my own name. And you can send me an email, askcoachdeidre@gmail.com. Quick. Social media is fine as well. You can DM me on Instagram and I'll get around to answering you as soon as I can. I am available to, have a discovery call to see if coaching is going to be the right thing for you. You can actually put that in. There's a form on Instagram in my bio that you can actually click on, and you can book a free 20-minute discovery call. If coaching's right for you, if I'm the right coach for you, then we can actually talk about, one-to-one coaching or even couples coaching throughout the process of that call. And if any questions you have, really, I'm really open to answering. So you can always just send me a DM or an email.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So once again, everyone, here it is on your screen. If you want to get in contact with her, just head on over to Instagram or via email and book your one-on-one session with Coach Deidre, a certified Christian relationship coach. And we definitely want to thank her today for her time and for her wisdom, sharing with us about healing from a toxic relationship. One thing we also wanted to share with you is that we do have also a one of our fellow sisters in the gospel, after going through her toxic relationship, she actually went ahead and wrote a book as part of her healing process. And so if you want to share in her story and understand kind of what she went through, but also how she came to from devastation to determination is what she calls it. It's available at Amazon, either .com.ca or .uk, where you can get a chance to read her story and how she walked through day by day to get herself to where she is today as well. So truly just want to thank everyone, and once again thank our coach for today, Mrs. Deidre Bennett, and thank you for joining us overall. And once again, if there's any questions at all going on in the future that you want to send us, you can definitely send it to worthinc at mail.com or reach out to us on YouTube at Worthinc. And we thank you so much, everyone, for today. May God bless you and have a great day.